Hey guys, what's going on? It's Mike from the Hardcover Comic here, taking a look at a DC book that I recently had the pleasure of rereading, that I thoroughly enjoyed and figured I may as well share. It is Midnighter. So this is the custom hardcover I've got, pretty much my little omnibus, and this is collecting the series that was written during the New 52 by Steve Orlando, with artwork by quite a few people. I think Akko was there, um, Stephen Mooney, and then Fernando Blanco did the Midnighter and Apollo 6-issue miniseries that I've also included in this bind. Dust Jacket was actually created by a gentleman named Ben Williams. I think I mentioned him in my Omega Men video. Um, he did some dust jackets for me before I started doing them. Just got some artwork on the covers here, the inside covers. I love the little I guess the radar background he did. Midnighter supercomputer going off. There's a little look at the spine. Taking a look at the back. He wrote a brief little description about the series. And then, of course, you got Midnighter and Apollo on the back there. You've got what it collects. Let's see if this will focus for me. No. But anyway, so this series, like I said, it was a 12-issue series, written by Steve Orlando with artwork by Akko, Paul Mooney, and not Paul Mooney, Akko, Paul Mooney, Stephen Mooney, and Fernando Blanco. So it was part of the New 52, but sort of during that DCU era, where they sort of made some changes to the characters. I did use the single issue here. Sorry, guys, let me get that properly aligned here. I did use the single issues here for this one, so there will be ads. But for those of you that don't know, Midnighter, I probably should have confirmed this, but I believe he was introduced by Warren Ellis, with the Authority. He's a character who, as we find out, was created by Henry Bendix and the Gardener. The Gardener is this woman here that you've seen over the past couple pages, who basically lives and is part of the God Garden, which hosts pretty incredible technology, and obviously is a place where beings such as Midnighter are created. And Midnighter, in terms of his powers, he's got a supercomputer in his brain that lets him basically run through a fight, multiple situations within a fight, and determine the best outcome for himself. Some really cool artwork here by Akko. He's got the stay. He even, Akko has these little panels and stuff that he does, that are pretty great in my opinion. I love his artwork. It's very fast and dynamic. But he's got this supercomputer, and then for very brief periods of time, he's able to increase his speed, to light speed, basically. And so it makes him a really interesting character because, again, he's very dependent on these skills, on these abilities, this technology within him that allows him to, basically be the badass that he is. But he's a very compelling character because he knows what he's been through, and he's dealing with what he's been through, not knowing what his past is, sort of just being a blank slate, this killing machine that was created, and he's accepted it, and he's just pointing it in the right direction, as he says. As you're looking through the artwork, you'll probably notice, if you didn't know, he is a homosexual character, which is what it is. Midnighter and Apollo were an item for a long time, and this series sort of explores him stepping out of that relationship, exploring himself, his the other people, other possible relationships he could be in, and finding out what the difference is. Reminiscing about Apollo. It's really great because while the series is extremely action oriented, there's a lot of great moments where you see Midnighter as a character evolve and think about his decision-making process. and what he could do better as a partner, as a hero, and as a human being, right? You do, of course, see him go on dates and develop these relationships, and it's great. He's got his friend Tony who runs a bar. Tony's great because he pops in every other issue, and he's always got something. He's always got some funny one-liners to throw in there. Like I said, it's very action oriented. There's a lot of blood in this series. We see characters like Multiplex come in. Um, we see the Suicide Squad come in, and I don't want to ruin who the main villain is of the first arc, but it's a pretty cool villain. Um, I feel like there were a lot of Grant Morrison related themes throughout this Midnighter series, um, which obviously I'm not mad about. We do get to see a lot of team ups with Dick Grayson, who at the time is an agent of Spiral. We do see Spiral show up multiple times within the series, but it's great seeing Dick Grayson and Midnighter team up, because they have a great rapport with each other, and Dick Grayson's very confident in his manhood, and he's not worried about you know they just have a good time. They get along really well, and it makes for really great storytelling, in my opinion. Like I mentioned, they do eventually fight the Suicide Squad, I got introduced to this character. I didn't know who he was. His name's Afterthought, and he can basically see 5 seconds into the future. So he makes for a very interesting opponent for Midnighter. Um, and in fact, Steve Orlando does a pretty great job overall of throwing weird obstacles and weird characters and weird situational twists that you really wouldn't expect, with Midnighter basically losing all his powers at one point and having to figure his way out. Similarly, like he does in his personal life with his relationships. So there's a lot of interesting parallels there. Of course, as you've been seeing, the artwork's fantastic. It's really detailed. It's very frantic. It's very action oriented, and little panels and little close-ups and zoom ups. If you're picturing this if I was picturing this as a movie, I would imagine there'd be a lot of quick cuts to zoom ins and whatnot. But to finish this off, so the main series was 12 issues. Kind of came to an abrupt close, but it did get continued, thankfully, in Midnighter and Apollo. So Midnighter and Apollo was the spiritual successor to this series, where it is still Steve Orlando, Fernando Blanco does all the artwork for these 6 issues. We get to see some great action sequences here, where here he's actually Midnighter's fighting the train gang. I believe it's Captain Halfbeard. Like I said, there's a lot of great action, a lot of great artwork. So this series, basically what happens with, I guess I don't want to give too much away. Somehow Apollo ends up in hell and Midnighter decides to go save him. And it's really cool seeing, again, like these unusual circumstances. And while I'll say that none of the storylines are, groundbreaking, they're fantastic. They're, again, the relationship and the connection you feel with Midnighter, and obviously Apollo throughout this miniseries, and all the other characters involved in Midnighter's life, really adds a lot of value to the book, and it really adds a lot to the storyline. So in total, you're getting 18 issues here, telling three pretty great stories. But I think the greatest story of all is just seeing, again, these characters interact, and it's what I really love about Steve Orlando as a writer, is when he's doing these individual series where he's just writing about one character and not a team. He typically knocks it out of the park, in my opinion, because he's able to really delve deep into that character and give you a lot about them that you may not get in a team book, because obviously a team, you've got a whole bunch of characters you're worried about, and so you can't focus on the deep thought involved with a single character. But like I said, you see the Suicide Squad with Parasite, Deadshot, Afterthought, Harley Quinn. It's a really great series with some awesome one-liners. There's a great one-liner with Multiplex where Multiplex basically says, he's like, you'll never get rid of me. Like, there's still more of us. We'll keep coming back. And Midnighter says, that's why you're my favorite, while he's holding a bloody weapon. It's great. It's little things like that. Midnighter loves what he does, he's doing it for the right reasons, even though he is killing people. He's walking that fine line, and at least he's pointing his energy in the right direction. For those of you that are interested in the series itself, there are trade paperbacks available. I doubt we're ever going to get an oversized hardcover for this. Maybe a complete collection someday. I had this bound like I do with all my books at Lehman. You can see the binding there is great. If anyone is just coming across this for the first time, the awesome thing about Lehman is literally from the first page, it stays open, right? It's not like most DC books where you have to get like 100 pages in and then it'll stay open. It stays open right away. You got a little bit of gutter loss, which is unfortunate because the artwork does sometimes get in there, but I have very, very little complaints about the binding itself. This is such a great series. If you guys are looking for something different, a new character to try out, I highly recommend Midnighter. He's not just a Batman ripoff. I did enjoy the Garth Ennis run as well, but I think I like the Steve Orlando one more because we do get that personal connection with the character. And yeah, I highly recommend you guys check it out. If you have read the series, let me know what you thought of it. If you do end up checking it out after this video, please do let me know what you thought of it as well. This was a series when I was getting into the New 52. I had read The Authority by Warren Ellis, which is a phenomenal series. If you haven't read The Authority, go read that first. But after that, I fell in love with Midnighter, and Steve Orlando kept that love going. So hopefully we see some more Midnighter in the DC universe soon. He was in The Wildstorm recently, which was written by Warren Ellis with I forget what his first name is, but Davis Hunt on artwork, which is fantastic. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the series. If you've read it, if I made you interested, I'm glad I was able to do that. And thank you guys very much. Be sure to like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Follow us on Instagram at The Hardcover Comic. If you have any questions about these custom binds or dust jackets in general, you can shoot us an email at thehardcovercomic@gmail.com. But thank you guys. I'm rambling as always now, 12 minutes in. This is Mike from The Hardcover Comic. Thank you for tuning in. As always, until next time, you stay classy, Internet.